Unpacking my room again. So it's May, which is really exciting. The end of the semester and study abroad term is coming to an end, which is really bittersweet, but it feels so good to have classes be finishing up and everything. Today I just wanted to talk about another really important topic and the study abroad reality, that is having to adapt to a whole new school curriculum and system. So I'll be talking about the differences between US school and UK school, and I definitely can't speak for all of the schools in the US and UK system, so I'm just going to be speaking from my personal understanding and experience of schools in the US. This is my home school, the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and my UK school, which is the University of Roehampton. So yeah, to start, and I think that this difference kind of reflects a lot of the differences in the systems. The way that you address your professor is not as a professor. In the US, we would address our professors as Professor Jane, or we would just call them Professor or Miss or Mr. or whatever they prefer to be called. And in the UK, they're actually not considered professors, and they are considered tutors. So you don't address them as Professor Jane or Tutor Jane. You simply just say their name. And I noticed a lot of the local students doing this, like, hey Karen, did you need any help with this? Like, just saying their name very casually. Yeah, and so when I first realized this difference, it was kind of tricky because when I had to email them, I didn't really know what to say, so I would actually just say nothing and I would just say hi, comma, and just carry on with my message. Whereas when I would be emailing a UH professor, I would say, hi professor, and go on with my message and be very professional in that sense, and yeah, just address them using that title. Very different with the UK tutors, and even just saying like that they're your tutors and not your professors or your teachers is very different. I think that the UK has a stronger focus on the students being more independent learners, in a sense that not really learning from a teacher or a professor, but they're being guided by a tutor and someone that they can see as more of an equal rather than like this higher ranked professor. Yeah, so that was really interesting. Another difference is that in the US or at the University of Hawaii, we refer to our schedules as schedules, like our class schedules and everything. And in the UK they call it a timetable, but this is just the way that they refer to like schedules in general. So I think this is also the way that they refer to like train schedules or train timetables, and like just schedules equals timetables for US and UK. Looking for my schedule in the beginning of the semester, it was under timetable, so that was something to get used to. Then the way that it's presented, it's per week. So in the UK, our school term is 10 weeks, and in the US, our school term, I think, is around 16 weeks. So that was very different. So for the UK and on our timetable / schedule, we would have each week, and then it would show you where you needed to be, and like under week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and then also had what was called a reading week. So there was one week where it was blank and we didn't have any classes in that week. And then in terms of the schedule and just the arrangement and organization of the classes, in the US, our classes are arranged to be up to 2 to 3 times per week, and they're about maybe like 1.5 hours to 2.5 hours long. In the UK, our classes are a total of 3 hours per week, and the first hour is a lecture where there's a big group of students in a bigger room, and we kind of just go over all of the information about the class. After the first hour of lecture in a big group, we're split into smaller groups called seminar groups. In these groups, we just have smaller discussions for more personal learning. Class can be on 2 different days, or it can be on all of one day. So for me, both of my Roehampton classes were same days. So I would go from my lecture, which was in a bigger room, and then go to a different room about an hour after the lecture, and then I would have my seminar class. And then for some people, they might have their lecture on a Monday, and then on the Wednesday they might have their seminar that was 2 hours long for the same class. And something to note about the scheduling and the timetables and everything is that, as I mentioned before, the semester course is 10 weeks, and that's for the spring course, but they also have a summer course, and I'm actually taking one summer course because I needed the credits to fulfill for my home university. Starting in January to April, that's when the spring courses are, and then we have a week of spring break. And then the week after is when the summer courses start, which is 5 weeks long, and my course is 2 days per week and 3 hours per class. So I have a total of 6 hours each week for 5 weeks for one of my summer courses. Okay, and then a really, really important difference is in the homework and assignments. In the US, we would be used to like weekly homework and tasks throughout the week, or like quizzes and things, and then also the occasional tests during like midterms, or just like a end of a module or end of a chapter test or something, and we would have like tests and homework basically, whereas in the UK your grade depends solely on your assignments, which are at the end of the semester. The 10 weeks, you might have one assignment that's due in the middle of the 10 weeks. And towards the ending of the spring term is when like you'll have 2 assignments due, or like bigger assignments that are due that are a bigger portion of your grade. So it was common for the library to get really crowded during that end of the term time, because that's when a lot of students had their bigger assignments due, and everyone was in the library just like reading and typing their essays and everything. So one of my friends had an assignment that had to be 16 pages. Another friend had an assignment that had to be 4,000 words or 3,000 words. One of my biggest assignments was 2,500 words, and that was like 8 pages, so that was a lot for me. But the assignments really differ based on what classes you're taking, of course, and everything, but that is the big difference, is that the assignments are mostly writing assignments. And then moving on from homework and assignments into grading, because that's definitely a big part of going to school. In the US, our assignments are usually be based on a percentage scale of out of 100. And then there's also the letter grades to represent the actual grade that you get based on the percentage scale. In the UK, the grading is also based on a percentage scale, but the standards are very different. So in the US, 100 would be an A+, and 90 would be an A, 80 would be a B, 70 would be a C, so on and so forth. And then in the UK, the standards are very different. So they don't base it on letter grades. They base it on first class, upper second class, lower second class, third class, and then a pass or a fail. So first class would be a 70 plus. Upper second class would be 60 to 69. Lower second class would be 50 to 59. A third class would be 45 to 49, and then pass is a 40. And a fail is anything below a 40. In the UK standards, anything over a 70 is like excellent, and it's very good, and it's actually very difficult to actually get a 70. So on one of my first assignments that I got back, I got a 52, which is a lower second class grade, and I believe it translates to a B for my home university, so that's really good for me. But when you hear a 52 on US standards, you would think that that's like a really low grade, but it's actually translates to a B, so yeah. And another notable difference in terms of grading between the US and the UK is that in the US, or for my home university at least, our attendance was a portion of our grade, and if you miss a certain amount of classes, you get deducted a little bit. And in the UK, there was actually a lot of students who didn't come to class. So I remember on the first day of class, I talked to this girl and I asked her, like, are the classes usually this small? And she says, no, I think a lot of people just didn't show up. And then she said, I only came today because I wanted to see who was in my class. And then I literally never saw her again for the rest of the 9 weeks. So yeah. And then in one of my other classes, there was the same like 8 people who came to class. And then one day there was this girl who I hadn't seen before, and then she had to introduce herself to the tutor, and then I never saw her again after that. I don't think attendance is as important as it is in the US as it is here, just because they have such a bigger focus on independent learning, so it's your choice whether or not you go to class and how that affects your grade overall. Another thing about like grading in general and assignments and homework and everything is that for a lot of the writing assignments, we didn't really have a set rubric or requirements or template to follow or anything. So what I would be used to for writing assignments is having this rubric with like this is what you need to do to get an A, this is what you need to do to get a B, this is a C, and so on and so forth, so that you know the teacher's standards for grading and everything. But here, they didn't really have anything. It was just the description of the assignment, the word count, you need to have a bibliography, the font and the font size, I believe, and then also that it needs to be double spaced and whatnot. So I just used US MLA format for a lot of my writing assignments, and that seemed to work. I think as long as it's just organized is the main thing. Okay, and then one of the final differences is just in terminology of what you call college or university. So I'm not exactly sure about like the correct terminology and whatnot, but I was talking to a local student here, and she said like, oh right, you guys have colleges in the US, and I was thinking to myself like, isn't this a college? Like, isn't this the same thing as a college? Yeah, I always just thought that colleges and universities were overall the same thing, but I don't know if they have community colleges here as we do in the US. College might be more representative of like a community college, whereas university is like a university institution. And then what's really cool is that they also refer to university as uni, like they'll just say uni. And it feels kind of strange to say it, but it's also like really cool and cute, like to just say like, oh, I have uni today, or like I'm going to uni today. Like that sounds so cool. And then final thing, in the US you typically go to university for 4 years to receive your bachelor's, and here in the UK, or it might just be like a Europe standard, I'm not too sure honestly, but I know that here at this university specifically you go to school for 3 years. So it's always a bit tricky when people ask me what year I am, because at my home university, the University of Hawaii at Manoa, I'm in my 2nd year, but I wouldn't really know what that translates to here because it's out of 3 years. So I do just say I'm a 2nd year student because I think it's the closest thing. But yeah, that's another difference, 4 years versus 3 years of school. So there are definitely probably a lot of other differences between US and UK school, but those are the major ones that stood out to me, and ones that I can talk about from experience that I have a little bit more of an understanding of. The difference between schools really did not even occur to me at all. I just thought that it would be more rigorous for sure, but I never thought about the schedule, and I never thought about what it would actually be like to go to class and everything. So I think that's definitely a really important thing to consider if you're considering study abroad, or you just want to learn more about what the school might be like. Of course, you never really know until you know, and for me the best way to understand it was to actually experience it. So yeah, but I do think that you should still prepare yourself for all of these differences and changes that you're going to experience. But that is all that I have for today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.